Hello everyone, and welcome. My name is James, also known online as Zamiel. You've come to the right place, because today I'm going to show you guys the perfect game of Hanabi. What is this video, you may ask? Well, I'll be going over the replay of an excellent game that I played with a group of 4 of my friends online, in which a lot of really cool strategical moves were performed, and no one made any mistakes, which rarely ever happens. And I was so excited about it that I wanted to share it with the world, while at the same time taking the time to explain some of the moves that we do. But before we begin here, I'll cover some basics. What is Hanabi? Well, hopefully if you're watching this video, you already know what Hanabi is, or else you probably won't get much out of it. But just in case, I'll tell you that it's a fantastic strategy card game. In most card games, you can see your own hand and you can't see anyone else's hand. But in Hanabi, it's reversed. You can't see your own hand, and all of your teammates can. And not only that is that it's co-op, such that everyone wins or loses together, which makes it really unique. Moreover, it has a ton of strategy and depth. I've played thousands of games, and it just never gets boring. A lot of people are introduced to Hanabi in real life, maybe at a casual party or a board game night. And then they find out about the online scene, and then they're completely appalled at what some of these nerds have turned the game into. So it's important to say up front that there are 2 completely different games of Hanabi. One is usually played in real life, where you casually chat with your teammates as you play and try to pick up on subtle clues in their facial expressions or behavior. It's a casual party game with a low skill ceiling. And then there's the second version, where players agree on a score of strategies before the game, and then they don't talk to each other whatsoever during the game to prevent any kinds of cheating. It's a game of cold, hard logic. And when put like that, it doesn't sound very appealing. However, it's important to realize that as soon as you play with the same people a few times, you're going to automatically start reacting to the patterns and the things that they do and forming rules about their behavior. And in fact, for any good strategy game, you need to be able to have some predictive power about what someone will do. So if your goal is to get better at the game and to conquer it, there's really no choice but to start to agree with your teammates on more and more things before the game starts, which further increases the complexity of the logic involved, and it further increases the skill cap. So to really hit this point home, here's a quote from Hyphenated, who's a member of my group. Pause the video, read this, let it sink in, and hopefully you'll be as excited as I am about the possibilities of this beautiful card game. So where can you play Hanabi? I personally play only online, and there's a few places to play, the most popular of which is called Board Game Arena. This website has a ton of players, but there are a few downsides. You generally play with completely random people, and after the game, everyone goes their separate ways. So this means that you'll never really get to sync up with them to really know what they were thinking at crucial moments in the game. And this really stinks, as it's quite fun to be able to help improve other players when they make mistakes, as well as get the chance to learn new tricks from players who are much better than you. And the UI also has a lot of problems. So I made Hanabi.live, which uses a modified version of the Keldon UI. So the people who play on this website generally review every single game in a voice chat, so that you get to meet and befriend the same set of players over and over. And it can be very rewarding to have everyone improve together instead of just kind of playing random games in a void, so to speak. So now with all of that intro crap out of the way, what can you expect from this video? Well, if you're looking to learn some of our strategies, then you've come to the right place. And I'll do my best to explain things in a basic way. However, familiarity with basic moves, like finesses for example, are pretty much a given. And if you're just a fan of Hanabi, you'll enjoy this game, as it has some monster clues that really put a smile on my face when they happened. And we always need new players in my group, so make sure to join the Discord server down below in the video description and say hi. There are games going on almost every day, and we do welcome newbies. So let's jump into the game. This is the UI of Hanabi.live. As you can see, it kind of emulates how Hanabi is played in real life, with each of these 5 players all huddled together around a table. And the card layout is also like it is in real life, where this yellow 5 is my leftmost card. But for example, Chronometrics, his leftmost card is blue 1. And this is not the way it is on Board Game Arena. So it can take some time getting used to, and you have to think about how it would be if you were playing in real life. Another thing to note is that we're playing the rainbow variant, which goes by different names among different Hanabi groups. What that essentially means, though, is that there's a 6th suit added to the deck. Normally, Hanabi's played with only 5 stacks. We add a 6th stack to the group that's a different suit, and every color touches that suit. And so what that does is it increases the difficulty of the game. We feel like we've mastered the normal game, so we're playing this custom variant in order to increase the difficulty. And as you can see, even though it's an increased difficulty game, we're still able to score a perfect score. The first clue of the game is Dune clues 5s to Lipster over here. Do not is over here. So as you can see, the card turned yellow. It has a golden border on it, and that signifies that the card has 1 or more clues on it. We refer to the card now being touched. A yellow border signifies that the card is touched, and this little white arrow just means that that is the last thing that happened. Finally, just some more things about the UI is that this right here is the deck. We can see that there's 40 cards left in the deck. Down here shows how many clues we have left in our strike count. And here is the trash, which is the discard pile. And when we can see a list of all the discarded cards in the game here in this discarded pile, which is very important. And up here in the top right-hand corner of the screen, we can see a clue log with every clue in the game, and we can derive important information from the clue log as well. So that's the UI. Now, one thing I want to mention right off the bat is do not makes an incorrect move right off the bat. I said this was the perfect game ever, but that's not quite true. This isn't the best move for Dune to do. The best move for Dune to do, can you see it? Pause the video if you want to figure it out for yourself. But right now I'll reveal that it is number 2 to CAC here. So on the way we play, every clue is usually either a play clue or a save clue. We have clues have very specific meanings that we try to remove as much ambiguity as possible. So if Dune touches a 2 here, it's a play clue. Because recall that CAC's chop is all the way over here. His rightmost card is his chop. Chop, of course, in Hanabi, meaning the card that you're about to discard is your chop card. So CAC's chop card is this one right here, and his leftmost card is this one. So if Dune is touching his CAC's leftmost card, it must be a play clue. So it means that the green 2 is playable right now. Now, we have a big list of conventions, and you can think of the conventions as tools in a tool belt that you can use in different situations. And we have lots of tools, and you want to kind of think about all the conventions and what would the best move for the situation to be. Which tool in the tool belt do you want to use? And if Dune clues 2's here, it's something we call a Clandestine Finesse. And that's just a move that, it's arbitrary, but that's the name that we've associated with this class of move. So hopefully you know what a finesse is. It means you clue a card and someone has to blind play from their leftmost unclued spot to fulfill the promise. Because Dune is promising that green 2 is playable right now. So therefore someone must have the green 1. Because you have to play green 1 on the green stack before you play the green 2. So here on this board you can see that it's actually Chronometrics that has the green 1. But this is not a normal finesse. A normal finesse would be if Chronometrics had the green 1 and slot 1. Then when it rolled around to Chronometrics, he would just blind play green 1, and then CAC would play green 2, and that would be a normal finesse. However, this is a level deeper than that. This is a Clandestine Finesse. Because after Chronometrics blind plays, it's going to be blue 1, which is going to be quite shocking to him. He's going to think to himself, oh my god, that wasn't green 1. So now, normally, if the card matches, Kak would think he has the matching card. So here, blue 1 would match blue 2. Recall that if we'd use number 2 to clue this to Kak, Kak has no idea what the color of this 2 is. So in a normal world, Kak would then immediately play this 2 as blue 2, and it would misplay. However, Kak can see that Chronometrics has playable cards behind the blue 1 that match the archetype of the clue. So Kak will defer from just play. He could have blue 2, but he won't play it immediately. He's going to stall or do something else and wait for another go around to kind of see what Chronometrics does. And we call that a Clandestine Finesse because it's hidden to Kak what's going on. And we don't call it a hidden finesse because that's a different move that we already made up. So we needed a different kind of way to describe this, and we chose the word clandestine because it's very hidden. It's extremely hidden. But that all doesn't matter because that doesn't actually happen in the game. Do Not just does a very boring clue and he does 5s. So you'll notice that this 5 is actually off chop. Normally when you clue number 5 to someone, the message is, hey dude, don't discard this 5. It's important. You know, obviously there's only one 5 in the deck. So if you discard a 5, your team essentially loses the game. You can't get a perfect score. So usually number 5 clues are done to 5s that are on chop as save clues. And it's pretty clear what it means. It doesn't necessarily mean play this 5 right now. And here, Do Not is doing a 5 clue, but it's on the slot 3. Slot 1, 2, 3. And this is his chop, slot 4. However, it's not anything out of the unusual because we agree beforehand that during the early game, we allow each other to stall using number 5 clues to clue 5s that are not on chop. And that's just something we agree upon beforehand, and it's not going to communicate anything special. Essentially, it just means that Do Not is passing. He doesn't want to do anything right now, and he's going to wait to see what Zamiel will do. Zamiel has a lot... on the very first turn of the game, you don't have a lot of information. So sometimes it's better to just pass and see what the next person does. And Zamiel here is player 2, obviously, and I'm going to have a lot more information. Essentially, Dune... if I had 4 1s in my hand, for example, Do Not would just get on that crap and clue me 1s immediately, and then that would be a 4-for-1 clue. Fantastic, very valuable. But since Do Not didn't touch my hand, I have some information about that my hand may not be very valuable. So Zamiel is in a much better position than Do Not is to kind of do the opening move of the game. So for that reason, this clue isn't entirely terrible, but overall it is better to get this number 2 clue. And of course, the Clandestine Finesse, we should note, is a 1, 2, 3, 4-for-1. So when we define what a clue's value is, we think of in terms of how many cards get touched or played from that one clue. So Dune would be using 1 clue here to get the blue 1, the yellow 1, the green 1, and the green 2. That would be a 4-for-1 clue. One of the most valuable clues possible. However, by cluing this 5, it allows Zamiel to do something even better. Zamiel is able to do a 5-for-1 now, which is a massively monster clue. Something that rarely happens. You have to play, many, many, many games of Hanabi before you can usually get the opportunity to do one of these. Now, pause the video and see if you can see the 5-for-1 that Zamiel does, if you're interested. And if not, okay, here's the solution. Zamiel touches this green 3 with a number 3 clue. So here you can see that I can't clue greens because then it would touch the green 1 and the multi-4. Well, first I should say that what is this 3 clue even accomplishing? This 3 clue is something we call a layered finesse, which is similar to a clandestine finesse, but it doesn't involve a misplay component. At the very beginning of the game, if Dune clues Kak 2s and Chronometrics plays blue 1, Kak is in a state of uncertainty such that he could actually have blue 1, but he just has to wait and see. And when it rolls around to Chronometrics, Chronometrics knows to keep playing because if he doesn't continue to do something, CAC will eventually misplay this green 2 as blue 2. So in the Clandestine Finesse, there's a misplay component. In other words, there's a sense of urgency in which you must continue to perform actions or else your teammate will misplay a card. And so that's kind of the glue that holds all of this together. Here, it's a little bit different. Zamiel clues 3, we call this a layered finesse because at no point will there be any states of uncertainty. It's very clear what's happening according to our conventions. So Zamiel touches this 3. This means that this green 3 is playable right now. How is the green 3 playable? Well, blue 1, yellow 1, green 1, then green 2. So CAC has to wait for all 3 of these ones to come down before Dune is allowed to play. Now, the reason why all of this works is because one of our core principles, we call them first principles, is called something called good lie principle. If you're interested in learning more about the principles, it might be handy to have this document open as a reference as I talk about this. We have a Hanabi conventions document that outlines all of this as a reference. And you can find that link in the description below. But anyways, one of the first principles is called good lie principle. And in some Hanabi groups, you are allowed to lie to your opponents. For example, if Dune said 2 to CAC, maybe that would mean that Lipster had to play yellow 1 or Zamiel had to play blue 1. And for example, you could ask the question, is Dune allowed to lie to Lipster? Is Dune allowed to lie to Chronometrics? What are the rules on lying? And various groups have different answers to this question. But in our group, we put some very, very hard walls around lying. And we have a principle called good lie principle that states that Do Not is only allowed to lie to Zamiel. Zamiel is only allowed to lie to Lipster, and so on and so forth. You're only allowed to lie to the person on your left, the person immediately following you in the game. In this way, we still get the advantages of being able to perform the bluff move, in which it's like a finesse, but you call a card that doesn't connect. Most groups play with bluffs. It's just a modified version of the finesse, and people will probably be familiar with that move. But the advantage of good lie principle is that it allows these monster clues like this. Because here, Zamiel is only allowed to lie to Lipster. So maybe Chronometrics would think, oh, Zamiel is just getting Lipster's yellow 1 here. Maybe that's what he's doing. However, Lipster doesn't do that. He doesn't play yellow 1. He does something else. He just does a very ordinary clue. He clues 1s to CAC, which is a 2-for-1. Gets 2 of these 1s. They're both playable. But it's quite ordinary. It's usually very high precedence to play a blind card into a finesse. So the fact that Lipster didn't do that means that Zamiel's 3 clue was a finesse not directed at Lipster, or a bluff not directed at Lipster. And since good lie principle states that I can only lie to Lipster and I can't lie to Chronometrics, Chronometrics knows that he must have exactly green 1. Now, another thing you may be asking yourself is, hold on, Zamiel, there's a green 1 right here. So maybe Chronometrics thinks that we're using Do Not's green 1. Well, that is not true, because this green 1 is behind unplayable cards. And when you do the finesse, it promises that everyone has all of the exact cards all lined up on their leftmost slot. And otherwise, this clue would be illegal. And Zamiel would be doing an illegal move that involves like a lying component, which we do sometimes, by the way. We're not so strict that we don't break the rules sometimes. But in this case, by default, Chronometrics knows that he must have green 1. So here, when he blind plays blue 1, he knows that he must continue to play and continue to have green 1. because Zamiel is only allowed to lie to Lipster, so therefore it must be the truth. It must be a true finesse as opposed to a bluff. So all of that was kind of complicated. Hopefully you're still along for the ride here. But this threes clue from Zamiel is just such a monster clue, such a beautiful clue. It's really fun to do moves like this in Hanabi that just get most of a player's hand, or even all of a player's hand. It's quite rare. So let's move on to the next part of it. Lipster clues ones, which is an ordinary 2-for-1. Now we play with a convention called chop focus. And this means that when you clue new cards in someone's hand, and it touches the chop, it's primarily focused on the chop. So this clue actually means to play the chop one as multi-1 or a playable one, and not necessarily this one. We also have another principle called good touch principle, and that states that we never duplicate cards. For example, if someone already has a green 3 clued in their hand, we would never ever touch a green 3 in someone else's hand unless, well, not never ever, but most of the time we wouldn't do that. So here, because of good touch principle, Kak knows both of these ones must be unique ones, and he's going to just play all of them. So this clue from Lipster is a chop focus play clue on this one, but it also implies that this one is playable, and Kak will play this one. We generally play ones from right to left at the beginning, which is another arbitrary thing that we've decided upon beforehand. And the reason we do that is because ones that are further down in your hand are more urgent to play because they're closer to your chop. And otherwise, if they were bad, we would have just done nothing at all, wait for you to discard, and then uniquely clue the good ones. So since that mechanism exists, we've realized that it's just better overall to play our ones right to left at the beginning of the game. And this is quite counterintuitive to newbie Hanabi players, because in most people's experience, when you get a play clue, it means play your cards from left to right, from newest to oldest. However, dwell on the subtle fact that that convention is because you draw cards from the left side, and therefore the leftmost card is usually the brand new card in your hand. So it makes sense logically that that card will usually be the card that you're playing. However, at the beginning of the game, there's no preset order to your hand. So for that reason, it's just as likely that the leftmost card is playable as it is the rightmost card. So the starting hands are a special case in which it is logical to play right to left. Chronometrics plays blue 1, playing into the Clandestine Finesse on the green 3. Kak places chop, rainbow 4, which is what everyone expected him to do. Do Not does yet another stall clue. Like I said earlier on in this video, we are allowed to clue 5s off chop in the early game, and we just agree that that's an allowed stall move that doesn't imply anything crazy. I'm not going to think that this 5 is playable or anything. I'm just going to keep going. Zamiel touches blues, touching this rainbow 2. This is a very ordinary 1-for-1 play clue. Nothing special here. Lipster does reds to Dune. This is a 2-for-1, excuse me, it's a 3-for-1 finesse. So what this clue means is that two new cards are introduced, the red 2 and the multi 4. And we have a first principle called leftmost play principle. That means that if the clue doesn't touch the chop, it means the leftmost is usually the one that you want to play. So here the focus of the clue is this red 2, because it's the leftmost card in Dune's hand. So to Chronometrics and Kak, it's a message that the red 2 is playable right now. So this is a very straightforward normal finesse. And Chronometrics can see that it's a finesse on Kak and not a finesse on him. However, this is what we call a hidden finesse, because to Kak, this just looks like an ordinary 2-for-1 play clue. Because if this purple one is red 1, then Dune will immediately play red 2 after that. However, that's not the case. And the reason Cac would think that is because our group, and in fact, I think all groups of Hanabi, play by the supposition that prompts take convention over finesses. And I should define what a prompt is. A prompt is when you have a card in your hand that has a yellow border on it that is already touched by a clue. So if someone finesses you or something, it's going to pull the card that already has a clue on it in your hand. And you only blind play a card from a finesse if there's no cards already in your hand that match the connecting card. So if a card is just chilling in your hand with a yellow border on it that's been touched by a clue, and you don't know what it is, and then all of a sudden the next card in the chain gets touched, that's the prompt. Now you've been prompted to play this card that otherwise would have been chilling in your hand for the rest of the game, potentially. Because, yeah. So here, this looks like a prompt convention. Well, it doesn't even look like a prompt, because a prompt is when you're not going to play the card and then you do play the card. But here, Cac is already going to play this one. He already knows it's a good one. So this, to Cac, it just looks like a normal play clue on red 2. But it's hidden. So after Cac plays the purple one, he'll know, aha, I actually have the red one, and it's here on slot 1. Yellow. Chronometrics. Okay, so now let's move on with the game to see what happens and see how this hidden finesse plays out. Chronometrics plays yellow one, and he's looking here for the green one. So he's fully expecting to play green one here, but it's not. So now Chronometrics knows that he has green one in slot 3. Or, alternatively, another playable card on slot 3 and a green one on slot 4. But that's highly unlikely. Cac plays purple one, highly surprised that it's not red one. And now Cac knows, aha, my finesse position card when the clue was given was red one on slot 1. So now I've played this card, so now the red one has slid down my hand to slot 2. So now Cac knows that he has red one on slot 2. And when it comes back to his turn, he's going to blind play that card to fulfill the finesse. So Do Not here sees that it was a hidden finesse, and that Dune can actually have red one here, but he's not allowed to play it quite yet. He has to wait to see what Cac will do. He has to give Cac at least one chance to prove whether or not it was a hidden finesse. So Dune has to do something different on this turn. He does a 3 to Chrono, and this is yet another finesse. This is a finesse on Cac's blue 2, and we call this a reverse finesse because it goes to Chrono first, and then the blind play, the card happens after that. So to Chrono, this looks like multi-3. It could be multi-3, which would be just a 1-for-1 play clue on multi-3. It could also be a blue 3 through Cac's blue 2. And it could also be red 3. If Dune somehow knows that he has red 2, which seems unlikely. Dune doesn't actually know the status of his card, so I think Cac will probably assume that it's either multi-3 or blue 3 here. Zamiel discards. So in the early game, one of the goals we have is to kind of extend the early game for as long as reasonably possible. And we define the early game as the period of time before someone discards. So by discarding here, I take us from 1 clue to 2 clues and end the early game, initiating the mid game. And so in the mid game, things change, and the class of clues that you're allowed to do change slightly. You're not allowed to clue 5s off chop anymore as just a stall clue, because it wouldn't meet minimum clue value principle. Well, it would, but in the mid game we don't stall. We go for efficiency, and we try to be as efficient as possible. So that's worth noting. And the only reason Zamiel is allowed to discard here is if there's nothing left to do. Normally we extinguish all of the play clues on the board that are given. But if we look around the board right now, we can see that there's nothing much left to do. All the playable cards have been touched with clues or been finessed. So there's nothing left for me to do, so I have to discard. So Lipster plays this multi-2. He knows now that it's not blue 2. Well, it could be blue 2 actually. But it's not, it's multi-2. And now Chronometrics needs to prioritize. Or, well, he doesn't have any clues to give really. So Chronometrics finally fulfills the Clandestine Finesse from the early on, the second turn of the game. Actually, I don't think Chronometrics has anything else to do on this turn. Okay, so now Kak can finally fulfill the Clandestine Finesse as well. So he plays green 2. Now, he also, here, this is kind of confusing because Kak has been finessed twice. He's been hidden finesse for the red 1, and he's been, he's in the process of fulfilling the Clandestine Finesse. So here, our conventions dictate that he actually has to play slot 3. And the reason is because the green 2 might be layered behind the blue 2. The green 2 could be on a Kak slot 4, and another playable card could be on a slot 3. So that's kind of an interesting wrinkle to the situation, where Kak is compelled to play these cards in a certain order. Green 2 is played blind. And now finally, because the green 2 played, Do Not knows, aha, I must have the green 3 to match all of these blind plays. So Dune goes ahead and plays it. I'm left with 2 clues. Nothing to do, I discard. Discarding in our group is typically a last resort. We only discard when there's nothing left to do, or if you were really low on clues. Dune gives purples. So as you can see here, it touches 2 cards in his hand, but this multi-4 is already touched. So the focus of the clue in our conventions is almost always on the brand new card introduced. The brand new card being introduced being purple 2. It doesn't necessarily imply anything else about this card right here. It's only primarily talking about this card. So what is it? It's just a play clue. Play slot 1 and then chill with the rest of the cards in Dune's hand. This multi-card will chill in Dune's hand forever until he gets sufficient knowledge with which to play. But no one on the group is worried that Dune will misplay this card from this clue. Because as I said, the focus of the clue is only on the purple 2. So this is quite an ordinary clue. It's simply just a 1-for-1. 1-for-1ing the purple 2. Chronometrics discards. Chronometrics has to wait for the blue 2 to come down before he can play the blue 3, obviously. Kak fulfills the normal reverse finesse. And he can choose here to fulfill either the reverse finesse or the hidden finesse. And here he knows that it's not on a slot 4 because he found the green 2 from earlier. So Kak actually knows the specific positions of each card. Well, actually, maybe, is that true? Let me rewind here to see. When this 3 is given, it's here. Yeah, so the red 1 can only be in one spot. So I think Kak does know exactly what he's doing here. He can choose to play either blue 2, or he can choose to play red 1. But Kak cleverly looks into the future and sees that if he plays the red 1, then Dune can play the red 2. But Dune actually has something else to do on this turn. He's going to be playing the purple 2. So it's actually not super important for Kak to be playing the red 1. He correctly prioritizes the blue 2 over the red 1 because Dune has something to do, but Chronometrics doesn't have anything to do. So that is the logic behind there. It's very important in our group. The order in which you play 2 playable cards, we assign an incredible amount of value on that. And sometimes the order in which we play cards can even cause blind plays. Dune plays purple 1, 2. Zamiel does a finesse. So this actually has, the red 2 is already called from the hidden finesse earlier. So this just reinforces to Kak that he does indeed have red 1. And Dune also knows now that he must have red 2. because it's Dune doesn't have enough cards to have both red 1 and red 2 and red 3. He would have to have all 3 of those cards if the hidden finesse was false. Remember at this point that Dune doesn't know that the hidden finesse is real or not. Dune could very well have red 1, although unlikely, because that's quite a low value clue, so to speak. So this clue gets the red 3 and is also a reverse finesse because it gets to Chronometrics first. So this is a 2-for-1. It gets the red 4 and the red 3. Lipster touches a 4. This finesses this card, the multi-3. Yet another finesse happens. So as you can see, this game is pretty amazing. There's just finesses happening non-stop, it seems like. However, this isn't super valuable. Usually the reason why finesses are good is because it's a 2-for-1 clue. You get 2 cards played with 1 clue. But here we can see that the multi-4 was already touched with a red and purple clue. So even though this is a finesse, we call this a 1-for-1 because it's only getting 1 brand new card. However, it's still quite good because it gets tempo on the multi-4, the rainbow 4, meaning that this 4 would have chilled forever in Dunot's hand, and this gets tempo on it. He can play it right now. So it's quite valuable in that respect. Definitely a good clue for Lipster to give. Much better than discarding or anything else. Chrono plays the blue 3. Cac plays the red 1, fulfilling the hidden finesse from earlier. Dune plays the red 2 and knows that on his next turn he can play red 3. Now, to Chrono could also have red 3. Chrono has to wait though for Dune to prove whether or not it's a reverse finesse. Okay, I have nothing left to do here, so I discard. Lipster tells me 3. Now this is the first bluff of the game. Lipster is in bluff position to Chronometrics. So Chronometrics knows that, yeah. So Lipster lies to Chronometrics. By touching this yellow 3 in Zamiel's hand, it's saying that this yellow 3 is playable right now. So Chronometrics must have the yellow 2. So since Chronometrics only has a red card in his hand and no yellow cards, the yellow 2 must be in his leftmost unclued card, in finesse position, we call that. So Chronometrics plays his finesse position card, but it's not yellow 2, it's purple 3. And Zamiel sees all of this unfold. So I understand that it was a bluff, and that Lipster bluffed Chronometrics, and I must have a 1-away yellow card. Or excuse me, a 1-away 3. I must have the yellow 3, because in fact it is the only 3 right now that is 1 away from being playable. Now, also consider here that instead of doing this, Lipster could do a real-life finesse on the purple 4, and you could do that by cluing purple Stacac or 4 Stacac, and that would also get the purple 3. However, it wouldn't get Chrono's purple 3. It would be confusing. Because to Chrono, it would look like it's getting Dunot's purple 3. And then when it rolls around to Dune, Dune would think, oh, why didn't Chrono play that purple 3? That's weird. So at that point, Dune should trust that it's talking about his purple 3. But it's quite confusing. And furthermore, a bluff is... So that's the first reason why he didn't do the finesse here, is because it would be confusing and it wouldn't be very fast. It would be like a delayed finesse because of all this uncertainty. But the second reason is that Lipster wants to lock... Oh gosh. Oops. This is the turn we were on. Lipster wants to lock in the save on this yellow 3. Right now, we don't want Zamiel discarding this yellow 3 because it's a 1-away card, and the other yellow 3 might be at the bottom of the deck. So if that is the case, then we would lose the game. So it's quite good to lock in a touch on this yellow 3. And because we play by good touch principle, that means that your chop is always your rightmost unclued card. We never typically discard clued cards unless there's a very good reason to, or there's a duplication. So by touching this yellow 3, it locks it in Zamio's hand forever, and now we've saved this yellow 3, and we never have to worry about it being on the bottom of the deck or anything like that. So this is quite good for that reason alone. In fact, even if Do Not did not have a purple 3, the best clue for Lipster is still to do this card, I think. But that's debatable. So Chrono plays into the bluff. Zamiel now knows he has true yellow 3. Cac plays rainbow 3 from the finesse earlier. Now Dune can actually play his multi-4 here, but instead he gives blue to Chrono. That's probably a mistake. I'm not sure why he did this. He could definitely play multi-4 here and let Zamiel do this clue. Oh, I see. Well, yeah, I think that is a mistake from Dune. So Do Not made 2 mistakes in this game. First, at the first turn of the game, and the second one there. But it's quite a small mistake. It doesn't hurt us that bad. Especially because Zamiel is discarding a useless green 2, and we don't need to keep this around. Okay, so Lipster tells 5s. So what this is normally when we clue 5s like this, it would be what's called a chop move, meaning that Zamiel's slot 3 is very important and that shouldn't be discarded. But here, everyone else other than Zamiel can see that Rainbow 1 is garbage and we don't care about that card. So therefore, there's one new card introduced in the clue, and that's the purple 5. So it must be a play clue on that card. So someone has the purple 4. Now, from Cac's position, Chronometrics has purple 4, but it's behind an unplayable yellow 4. So therefore, it's not in finesse position. So therefore, Lipster can't be talking about this purple 4. Lipster must be talking about a purple 4 in finesse position, and it must be on Cac's newest. So here, from this clue, Cac immediately thinks, okay, it's a purple finesse, and I have purple 4 on my newest slot. But we can see here that that's not true. Chronometrics plays blue 4, and Cac plays blue 5. Oh, so I guess this may be why Dune did what he did. Because if Dune does that, oh yeah, because I can't see... No, I guess yeah, never mind. Dune couldn't have seen that. Well, anyways, the point is that the purple finesse works. Cac plays blue 5 blind, and it's not purple 4. So this is yet another layered finesse. And the reason is because the reason it's not a bluff and it's layered is because Lipster is talking to Cac, and Lipster is not allowed to lie to Cac. Since Lipster's only allowed to lie to Chronometrics. So Cac knows that it must be a true clue, and he must have true purple 4. So now Dune plays red 3 into the finesse from earlier. Oh, I guess he really should have done that last turn. Yeah, he should have... I forgot he was finessed for that. I finessed him for that earlier on in the game. I'm like losing track of all these finesses. So going back just to really go over this again, this blues clue from Dion is quite strange. Everyone expects him to play red 3 here. But I think maybe he saw the blue 5 thing. I don't know. Well, anyways, he plays the red 3 here later on the next turn. So now I clue 1s. And this is purely a stall clue. Because I have 3 cards in my hand that are playable. And I don't want to be the one discarding and drawing a 4th discardable card. Playable card, excuse me. And the reason is because I would say now earlier I talked about the early game and the mid game, but at this point we've transitioned into the end game. We can see that there's 17 cards left in the deck. So the game is rapidly approaching its close. If I have 3 cards to play, and so 5 times 3 is 15. So by the time I play all 3 of my cards, I'm only going to get 1 more go around on the entire board to play a 4th card. So it's very important to not let the end of the game come too quickly. People still have all these cards to play. And so if I discard, it accelerates the end of the game by 1 turn. So I'm going to use up the last clue in the bank here to just stall and clue 1s to Libster. Libster only has 1 card in his hand that I care about, which is green 5. So Libster can discard yellow 1, and then even if he draws a playable card, it's still okay, because then he would have 2 playable cards. And we can use Chronometrics as yellow 4. So here, Chrono plays. He knows that this is red 4 because Do Not Blind played red 3. Cac plays purple 4 into the fulfilling the Layered Finesse from earlier that Libster did. Do Not finally plays the multi 4. Now I can play the purple 5 because Zamiel saw all the blind plays from Cac, so I was able to derive what was going on. Libster gives yellows yet another finesse. Finesse on yellow 2. Quite good. Chronometrics gives a play clue. Now Cac knows that this is the last remaining 5 in the game because he can see the green 5 and the yellow 5. So Cac can just immediately play this card. Dune plays into the finesse. I play yellow 3. Now, as I said before, we're in the end game. So Libster wants to stall. Now here, normally we play chop focus. So Zamiel's chop card is the multi 1. So when Libster gives me yellows here, the focus of the clue is actually on slot 3. This card right here. However, here's the clue log. If we mouse over the 3, we can tell that it has -5 on it. So essentially I know that this yellow card is trash because it's not yellow 4, it's not yellow 5, it's not multi 5. So therefore, the focus of the clue in this specific case is not on the chop. The focus of the clue is the other card, which is slot 1. So this is just a play clue on slot 1 in conclusion. Chronometrics plays. And now Cac is left at 0 clues, is forced to discard. Dune gives the ordinary 1-for-1 play clue. I play yellow 5. Libster burns because to delay the onset of the end of the game. This clue is unnecessary, but it's better not to be discarding here. Chrono discards from slot 1. Now that's quite strange, you might notice, because normally you're supposed to discard from your chop, which is your rightmost unclued card, as I said, which is purple 4 here. By discarding from slot 1, Chronometrics is telling all of his teammates, aha, I see all of the remaining cards in the game that need to be played. So therefore, it doesn't even matter what's in my hand. I can safely discard any of the cards in my hand, and it doesn't matter. So Chronometrics discarding slot 1 is just a little bit extra information to everyone. Not that it's even necessary at this point. But Cac plays green 4. Dune burns with a 5 clue. I play. Libster plays. Perfect 30, and there's still 2 cards left in the deck. We don't even have to use the final go around. So as you can see, there were plenty of finesses in this game. Normal finesses, reverse finesses, clandestine finesses, layered finesses, as well as bluffs. So the full gambit of different kinds of moves. And we even have more tools beyond this. We have a crazy move called a patch finesse that wasn't shown in this game, as well as things called trash pushes, trash push finesses, as well as more. And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can read all about them. We've painstakingly documented all of these moves in a Google document, and that was also, as I've said, in the Google description below. Quite a satisfying game here to have everyone almost make no mistakes. I think Dune made a few mistakes here, but that's okay. A near perfect game, very satisfying to play. It really, when you're really synced with your opponents, or excuse me, not with your opponents, when you're really synchronized with your teammates and everyone understands all of the subtext, it can be really satisfying. So hopefully that was an interesting game for Hanabi enthusiasts out there, or Hanabi beginners even. And if you're interested, make sure to join our Discord and say hello. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.